Member for Kareen.
Mr Speaker, can I firstly congratulate you on your election to the chair, and can also congratulate everyone in this chamber on their personal victories in their respective electorates. I, for one, feel both honoured and privileged to be standing here today representing the constituents in the state seat of Kareen. I would like to thank them for placing their trust in me, and I'm absolutely committed to representing their interests over the next 4 years. I also feel humbled at becoming a part of the government of the 38th Parliament of Western Australia. I look forward to both the challenges and the opportunities that the next 4 years will present. At the outset, I would like to thank a number of key people in my life, as without their support, I would not be standing here today. To my beautiful wife, Nada, who has been by my side supporting me every step of the way. I love you, Nada, and I thank you for being my best friend all these years. To my lovely children, Mara, Michael and Natalie, thank you for being so understanding and for all your hugs and kisses. To my parents, Slavko and Mara, I love you both for always supporting me and being there for me when I needed you most. I also owe a debt of gratitude to all the members of the Liberal Party who have given me the opportunity to represent our great party. Finally, I would like to thank God for making all this possible and for being with me every step of the way. I was born in Croatia in 1966 and migrated to Australia in 1969. My father arrived first, having borrowed the funds from his cousin in Perth. Once he bought a house and borrowed more money for our journey, we followed soon afterwards. We arrived with nothing more than the shirts on our backs. I remember those early days in Australia with very fond memories. I was raised in a working-class family where hard work and respect and a belief in one's ability to succeed were the fundamental principles of my childhood. My father always said that hard and honest work will reap you the benefits of a happy and prosperous life. He also taught me that everything in life worth having is worth working hard for. Based on my life experiences, I strongly believe that policies based on equality of opportunity, the generation of wealth, free and competitive enterprise, consumer choice and reward for effort are crucial for the future success of our state. I still fondly reflect on my childhood, remembering how we knew nearly everyone in the street, sleeping on the lawn during those hot summer nights, eagerly awaiting for the bread and milk to be delivered, leaving home in the early evening to go for a family walk around the neighbourhood, and never needing to think if we locked the door or if someone was going to steal the milk or bread money. It only seems like yesterday. Today, I'm sad that I can't let my children have all those same experiences. Not only do I lock the door, I even make sure that the alarm is turned on before we leave home. Neighbours are getting harder to find, and family walks are something we have to remember to find time for in today's complicated and busy society. Like Sir Rolf Harris, I too am originally a boy from Bassendean, swimming in the Swan River, playing footy on the BIC, and supporting my beloved Swan districts are all treasured parts of my life. I attended a Catholic primary school and a public high school before entering university and completing a Bachelor of Business degree with a major in accounting and computing. After completing my degree, I joined the Australian Taxation Office, where I forged a successful career for the next 20 years. Interpreting and applying legislation was a part of my everyday life. I have learned to take a very keen interest in the legislative process and its impact on the community. All too often, politicians and bureaucrats implement changes without having any real idea on its impacts on families, business and the community in general. I remember when the federal government introduced the simplified tax system all those years ago. Many of my former colleagues were continually frustrated by the complexity of the so-called simplified tax system. As a member of the 38th Parliament, I will be doing my best to make sure that such complexities don't find their way in our legislation. Mr Speaker, I have never been far from my local community during the last 20 years, always involved in one way or another, and it seems that I've been destined to find myself in a leadership role at many crucial points in time. Helping others is what my life has always been about. It's my passion, my reason for being. Being a Member of Parliament gives me the opportunity to turn that passion into a profession. It has given me the chance to really make a difference, to listen to the community and to try and turn their dreams into reality. I know that it's not going to be easy. I know reaching for the stars is difficult, but anything in life worth having is worth working hard for. I think Barack Obama is reaching for the stars. Some people in history, such as Martin Luther King, have managed to touch the stars. I too am hoping to touch the stars one day. I have two fundamental life principles: making a difference in everything I do, and it's not about me, it's what I can give to the community. Mr. Speaker, I believe I am fortunate to be representing one of the best electorates in Western Australia. The state seat of Corrine is a picturesque beachside electorate located in Perth's northern suburbs. It is bounded to the east by the Mitchell Freeway, to the south by the Karrinyup Road, and to the west by the beautiful Indian Ocean. Its northern boundaries consist of a series of roads, including Warwick Road and Clontarf Street. It includes the suburbs of Gwelup, Marmion, North Beach, Waterman's Bay, and parts of Duncraig, Karrinyup, Sorrento and Trigg. The schools in the area include the Corrine Senior High School, Corrine Primary School, Devalia Primary School, Karrinyup Primary School, Lake Gwelup Primary School, North Beach Primary School, Pointer Primary School, Marmion Primary School and Our Lady of Grace Primary School. I've already been in contact with all these schools and met most of the presidents from the school P&C groups. As a result, I've discovered that there are a number of issues that the schools need help with. I've certainly made it one of my priorities to assist the schools in my electorate all I can. I've also started to work with many community groups that exist in the Corrine electorate and have been delighted to have been welcomed by the people involved. Two groups, the Gwelup Progress Association and the Hammersley Corrine Amateur Football Club, have asked me to become their patrons, an honour I was delighted to accept. As the member for Corrine, I am proud to have followed in the footsteps of the Honourable Jim Clarko AM and Miss Katie Hodson-Thomas, who between them represented the area for 35 years. Both of them have assisted me along the path that led me here today. Jim worked closely with me in my campaign, as did the outgoing member, Katie Hodson-Thomas, who offered me considerable guidance and advice and endorsed me to her constituents as her successor. There are so many people who have given up their time to give me the privilege to be here today. To each and every one of those people, I wish to say thank you from the bottom of my heart. I promise to do my best at all times. Mr. Speaker, I would especially like to acknowledge my campaign team, the Honourable Jim Clarko AM, the Honourable George Strickland OA, Martin Noakes, Shane Earnshaw, Des Riley, Sammy Yap, and my ever-reliable campaign chairman, Chilla Porter. I would also like to give a special mention to Zach Kirkup, Ben Morton, Genevieve Lyon, Zara Saliba, Jan Graham, and my amazing son, Michael Krsticevic, with whom some members in the chamber have already encountered in political debate. Mr. Speaker, I know that Katie Hodson-Thomas feels some regret that the opportunity to give her valedictory speech was prevented by the calling of an early election, and I would like to take this opportunity to pay credit to her 12 years in Parliament. Katie has often told me what an enormous privilege she feels it was for her to represent both the Liberal Party and the electorate of Corrine as a Member of Parliament. I know she would want to thank members of the Liberal Party organisation for their ongoing support and likewise pay credit to the people of the electorate of Corrine who elected her 3 times. She has always emphasised to me how rewarding she found her job. One of Katie's insights was that at times the tasks appear small and other times simply impossible, but when success is achieved, the rewards and sense of worth that result are immense. I have already been lucky enough to have some minor successes and understand exactly what she means. On Katie's behalf, I would like to mention some of the worthwhile achievements she made in her term as the member for Corrine. The extension of the Reid Highway from Erindale Road to Marmion Avenue was a project many years in the planning and execution. It was detailed, frequently controversial and affected many residents very personally, so it inevitably created a very high workload for Katie and her staff. Katie was very firm on her position to support the extension. I admire the fact that she chose not to sit on the fence, despite criticism from some quarters. She believed the extension was in the interests of the whole community, and this has proven to be the case. I want to continue her work in enhancing the Reid Highway by developing it as a dual-lane carriageway, and will be working with the new Minister of Transport to that end. The saga of the Karrinyup Lakes Lifestyle Village is an issue some members of the House will recall. Residents of that retirement village have been placed in a very difficult position by the actions of management and sought Katie's help to resolve the situation. I know that Katie had hoped that this matter would have been resolved prior to her departure as the elected member. Having moved a motion in Parliament that was subsequently referred to a standing committee, it must be said that this would not have happened without the support of two former ministers, the Minister for Planning and Infrastructure, the Minister for Armidale, and the Minister for Consumer Protection, the former Minister for Kenwick. Katie would also like to wish to thank the former member for Yokine for his outstanding work as chair of the committee, and indeed to all the committee members. The committee's report upheld the concerns of the residents that Katie had represented to Parliament. However, the matter of the Karrinyup Lakes Lifestyle Village is far from over. Residents are still awaiting the resolution of long-delayed planning approvals before they can sell their units, and have anxiously awaited the reformation of the Economics and Industry Standing Committee to ensure its recommendations are carried out. In addition, with the Retirement Villages Act coming up for revision, I believe that all members of the House should become familiar with the sad saga of the Karrinyup Lakes Lifestyle Village, so we can ensure that the new legislation improves the protection of seniors' interests and rights, and also ensure that the terrible experiences of these Gwelup residents is not repeated. I am committed to seeing this matter through and ensuring the residents of Karrinyup Lakes Lifestyle Village will receive justice. Another long-term project Katie was committed to was the extension of the North Beach Jetty, and I know she would like to acknowledge the work of two local residents, in particular Mr Laurie Birchall and the late Rick Hammond, who were both committed to this project and gave her enormous support in trying to raise the necessary funds. The project stalled because of the financial implications, but I will be working with the federal member for Stirling, Michael Keenan, to continue Katie's battle to restore the North Beach Jetty. Like Katie, I believe that communities need to make financial investments in infrastructure that properly consider the long-term social benefits of the community in terms of recreational activities, social benefits and support for people with disabilities. Mr Speaker, Katie was the member for Careen when the decision was made to close the Careen TAFE, an event which may have been inevitable, but which was naturally greeted by the community with some dismay. She worked hard to ensure that all courses were transferred to the Joondalup campus to ensure residents gained easy access to an educational facility. She also became involved in the process to determine what this large area of land would be used for. This is a process I have inherited, and I will be keeping a very close eye on the plans for the old Careen TAFE site to ensure they meet residents' needs. Vandalism on the site is also an issue, which I am working with the authorities to address. Careen, like all electorates, occasionally suffers from a lack of law and order, usually when young hooligans get out of control and make the community environment uncomfortable for its legitimate residents. I look forward to working with the new Minister for Police, who I know shares my firm belief that we need to extend the work of the police force out in the community to ensure law-abiding citizens are not subject to these types of events. Mr Speaker, the wider issues for the state of Western Australia are also matters I wish to make my concern. I believe that we have a great society and that despite somewhat gloomy financial outcome globally, Western Australia is still well positioned to continue to improve its services and infrastructure. Along with our police force, I am committed to helping the members of this government improve our system of health and education so they can provide greater benefit to the community. Mr Speaker, one area of great interest to me is that of small business. For many years, working with the Croatian community, many of whom have established their own successful businesses in Western Australia, I know how important the small business sector is to the future of Western Australia and its people. I also know how hard small business people work, often in the face of bureaucratic structures that they feel hold them back or make running their businesses more difficult rather than easier. This is an area I would also like to improve while I'm a Member of Parliament, to try and make it easier for small business to operate, not harder. Inevitably, the question of trading hours is going to be an issue coming before this House, and somehow we have to find a way to ensure that the interests of small business are seriously considered in this process. In talking to small business proprietors, I consider they have another number of legitimate concerns in accepting the notion of extended trading hours, and I believe we have to acknowledge the validity of these concerns and find ways to resolve them in the process. The first concern is the problem of the owner-operator. The normal extension of trading hours at Christmas time is now taken for granted, and there is no doubt the consumer enjoys this variation from the norm. However, it is nonetheless a good example of the difficulties small businesses might face in making regular extended shopping hours worth their while financially. I've been told on many occasions that the increase in trading revenue at Christmas does not really justify the employment of extra staff, forcing owner-operators to work 7 days a week for little or no extra benefit. Extending trading hours during the rest of the year will, they are sure, be exactly the same situation or even worse. Therefore, it is imperative that owner-operators in small business have some degree of choice in whether they open or not. I've been told that large shopping centres often use the terms of leases to demand that smaller shops remain open when extended hours are in place, which puts these smaller operators in a truly lose-lose situation. I am pleased by the Premier's recent announcement that the Liberal National Government will honour the decision of the 2005 referendum and will not seek further deregulation on Sundays. I believe that this is to the benefit of small businesses who do not wish to be forced to compete. And remember that many small businesses with few employees can still choose to open on Sunday if they wish. I also believe it is to the benefit of the community, ensuring that there is one day at least partially preserved for families and leisure. Even middle-sized businesses have expressed concern to me about being forced to compete with the larger businesses on their territory. They feel that these larger businesses favour extended hours because they know they can afford to stay open and lose money until financial pressures force smaller operators out of business. Clearly, this is a situation that would not benefit Western Australia. I have every confidence, however, that we can deal with these issues. We must, however, never forget that small business is the backbone of Western Australian industry and employment, and that understanding this sector is vital for the welfare of the wider community. When we hear the voices of change calling, we must never forget that we live in the best state, in the best country in the world. The last thing we should do is lose that simply for the sake of change. Mr. Speaker, the expansion of regional Western Australia was the dream of one of our greatest premiers, the visionary Sir Charles Court, whom I have always admired both as a politician and a man. And in this government that has been formed in alliance between the Liberal and National parties and its stated objectives to develop regional Western Australia, I believe we have the potential to further advance Sir Charles's dream. However, I also believe that this can and will be done in an environmentally sustainable way. No person in the 21st century could fail to be aware of the fragility of our environment and the challenges that global warming and environmental degradation hold. If we fail to protect our environment, this society itself could fail. I believe that through good government, we can walk the tightrope and find the balance between development and protection. Can I ask for an extension?
Extension granted.
Together, we can build a better Western Australia. We can show the rest of Australia that by working together, we can make a difference to our future prosperity. Working smarter, listening to the community, and respecting each other with a positive attitude will lead to a prosperous society. I am ready, willing and able to work with each and every one of you to deliver the results which will benefit all Western Australians. Finally, I would like to mention how I see the positioning of this state in its interaction with the Australian government and the world. We cannot live and grow in isolation despite our physical separation. I consider that Western Australia needs to strongly maintain its position in the Federation of Australia and work closely with the rest of the states on our developmental agendas for investment, for development and for environmental protection. Mr. Speaker, I find it ironic when some members of the Parliament who supported the introduction of One Vote, One Value complained about the Commonwealth Grant Scheme, complained about Western Australia getting a raw deal, complained about how Western Australia generates some 35% of the nation's wealth, yet we only get a fraction of that back. I do agree with all these concerns, but also feel that these inequalities are similar to those inflicted on regional Western Australia with the introduction of One Vote, One Value by the previous state Labor government. One Vote, One Value is an example of how regional, high-production communities are being robbed of their fair rewards for their labour. Western Australia is not like other states in Australia. Our regional areas produce the greater part of our wealth. Yet, under One Vote, One Value, we have removed from them the basic right to fair representation for their efforts and their contributions. I support the Liberal National move towards giving our rural communities a fairer proportion of state revenue and attention, as do many constituents who have contacted me. In addition to improving funding for regional communities, I believe that we need to return to them a greater stake in the political process. Therefore, I will be calling for a review into this flawed legislation. We should not ignore the regions based on the size of their population. We should acknowledge their contribution to this great state and our nation. Likewise, our federal government should not take Western Australia for granted. This remote state, like our remote regions, needs to be valued and respected for the contribution made each and every day. Mr. Speaker, I believe that Western Australia has a glowing future. I look forward to being part of the generation that makes that future. Thank you.